Episode 13, Fireside Chat with Jason Hickey, Logo Bro, Part 1. Hey, it's Denny. I'm recording this intro on a Sunday of a weekend where I was supposed to be a dealer at the Chantilly Card Show, and I had to miss out, and I'm just really bummed about it because I had to miss it because I messed up my back and I've been trying to recover. And honestly, I wouldn't even bring this up had it not been for the effect it had on my hobby life. There was just so much content that I was ready to make, so many friends, both real life and Instagram that I was going to see. And all I could do was just sweat the show while scrolling through Instagram and liking posts and commenting on posts while recuperating. But the hobby waits for no man, woman, or child. Like I said in one of my earlier podcasts episodes, the hobby is like your friends coming in one of their cars, and it's just a matter of do you get in or not. And at least this time, I was just too hard to get into the car. Another bit of fun news. I had some eBay sales end over the weekend, and I've been looking for these two specific cars I just cannot find. And it's just worse trying to even find them with a bad back, much less, just in general. So I know having another business day to find and ship them, but if I don't, this will be my first time having to cancel an order, and that's just something I don't want to do. But these eBay sales, they're just dollars and cents, and it's just such a grind putting up value bin cards. And even if they were better cards, we know that gross sales is not the same as net profit, and that some of us would even be lucky to eke out a small net profit on any card, regardless of the value after fees and shipping. So, being a jack of all trades and a master of none, I guess things like this are bound to happen. Because I will very much admit that the podcast has been taking up a lot of my hobby time, but it's also something I found to be the most rewarding. Some of you have reached out with such great support and encouragement, and I love that because I do the same with creators I appreciate, podcasters and, content creators on Instagram. I say give flowers to the living, just show the love. I crave external validation, y'all. Instagram handle Hobby S Thompson or Denny_cards. Email is hobbysthompson@gmail.com. And yeah, now that I'm 13, lucky number 13 episodes in, I think I'm starting to hit my stride a little bit here. I don't know if you agree with that, but if you'd like to leave a review, this is the first time I'm asking, but please leave a review on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. I would greatly appreciate that. I really, really would. Okay, so enough with that. Time to segue into the fireside chat. I put up a teaser for this episode on my Instagram, and I got some really funny and good guesses, but no one was able to guess exactly who it is, except a couple of people were close with guessing one of the three former owners of the LeBron James triple Logoman from 2021 Flawless. Just not the right one. The amazing thing about having this great chat with Jason Hickey is that he was like a diamond in the rough. He had done two podcasts when he first pulled the card, or to be more specific, when he bought into a break where the breaker pulled the card for him, which we talk about. But even after being on the Netflix show King of Collectibles, The Golden Touch, full title, no one had reached out to him to have him on as a guest of their podcast, as far as he told me. So I was truly honored to have him on to talk about how he was one of the three owners of the card, how that came to be, how it was being on the Netflix show, and how he now has this strong connection with the other two previous owners of the card. And we just talk about a bunch of things near the end, like 90s basketball and just nostalgia, trip down memory lane stuff. And yeah, just how he has a strong connection with those owners and how they consider themselves logo bros. And so that's the nickname I gave him for this episode with his blessing. So it's Jason Hickey, Logo Bro. So I hope you enjoy this podcast episode and the next one, which should be part 2 of this fireside chat. Thank you, as always, for taking a listen because you could be listening to any podcast right now, but you're here with me, And in a few seconds, you're going to be here with Jason, Hickey, and myself. And I really got to say, thank you so much. I appreciate your listens and your comments and feedback. So without further ado, Fireside Chat with Jason Hickey, Logo Bro, Part 1. All right, I think we're live. Welcome to the Card Diary with Hobby S. Thompson. I am your host, Denny Cards. And when I say I don't know which number episode this is at the time of recording, I'm actually serious. I don't know when I'm going to run this because I've encountered a problem and it's a good one. And it's that I've had so many great guests who are willing to come onto this new podcast and share their experiences and expertise and be vulnerable. And before I get to my guest today, another potential problem I'll share with you, the listeners, and I've mentioned this to my guest before coming on, is if you hear anything in the background, it's because my wife asked me if she could do a load of laundry in this vaunted podcast studio, which is my basement. And I said, yes, we could squeeze it in, but the cycle is taking a little bit longer than expected. But I do promise everyone I will not be stopping the podcast to put the wash into the dryer. So, and if you don't hear anything, that's good. It just means that my Blue Yeti is canceling the noise really well. So, having said those two things, today's guest is very special because I know that there is no such thing as being an expert buyer into buying into brakes. But if there was, I want someone to name me a better person to have on the pod than someone who pulled a LeBron James triple Logoman and was featured on the Netflix hit show King of Collectibles. Okay, so for those of you who already watched the show, you'll know who he is. My wife says he was the best dressed one of the three owners, the sharply dressed gentleman on the right-hand side of your TV screen when they were talking to Ken Golden. My guest today is Jason Hickey. Jason, welcome to the pod.
Denny, thanks for having me, man. And I want to be best friends with your wife. What a compliment.
She knows her style. She loved the show when it came, she doesn't really like cards too much, but when it came to like the music items and the pop culture items, she really enjoyed the show. And she really enjoyed the part when I was like, all right, you got to watch this. This is so cool. But she did, and she humors me. And but she's very supportive of me being in the hobby, including doing the laundry. So thank you. Thank you to my wife. So Jay,
because I'm in a t-shirt, I should be dressed up for you.
Yeah, I'm in a t-shirt too. It's all good. I mean, this podcast will not have the viewership of this show. I could say that with the utmost confidence. So, we're gonna definitely get into your involvement in the show and anything you're able to say, and if you signed anything that where NDAs or things you can't talk about, please feel free to let me know where the boundaries are. But you are my fifth guest on this podcast at the time of recording this, and I appreciate every single person who's been on so far. But I feel like you're especially unique to me because when I was asking you by DM to come onto the pod, you told me that you did 2 podcasts around the time that you pulled the card last year, but that since the airing of the show on Netflix, no one has reached out to you. So in a way, I feel like I pack pulled you and like you're my one of one. So I sometimes I'm like, how is this even possible? So I'm just so glad to have you on tonight.
Thank you, man. Happy to be here. And it's the popularity went away pretty quickly. Let's put it that way.
No way. No. All right. Well, we'll talk about that and just the zeitgeist of sports hobby and all that. So in my show prep note email I sent to you that I sent to everyone, no one reads my emails. No one responds to my emails. They'll respond to the DMs, but my emails I think are just way too long. So let's take some time to talk about your backstory because I don't have like a bio to read about you or for you. I think on one podcast, one of the 2 that I heard you on before the Netflix show ran, you mentioned that one of the first people you spoke to after pulling the card was your daughter. I think I heard that right. And so I guess my first question in getting to know you more is, do you collect with your kids? Like, and like how's your Father's Day, things like that, because we are recording this 2 days after Father's Day.
Yeah, no, great question. I have two fantastic kids. So my daughter is 12 years old. Her name is Kaylin, and my son is soon to be 16 next month. His name is Riley. And we watch a ton of sports together. I coach a bunch of I used to coach a bunch of their different teams. I still coach my daughter's basketball team.
Mm,
I would say my son is definitely a little bit more into collecting
hmm.
than my daughter is, but she certainly understands it and is always asking me about it. And my son and I got, a little bit more into sneakers back in the day, more than sports card collecting, but I've always been into collecting overall.
Awesome. So you got that collector's gene in you, and you've passed it on down to your kids, huh?
That's right. It seems to be the case. I was just shipping out sneakers this morning that my son sold on eBay.
Details. Tell me what kind, what type.
He sold they were both Jordans, Jordan 3, I think they were midnight blues, and then a pair of Jordan 1s, and I can't remember exactly what they were.
So again, just taking this to the side and not going down the normal traditional route of my questions, because this is more of a chat. So my nephew, my wife's sister's son, he is such a sneakerhead, and he's actually setting up at these shows, and he is like a middle schooler, and he is just crushing it. I mean, his volume and sales and profit are like they leapfrog me in the hobby, and I'm just so impressed by him. And he's been on, some of my Instagram lives. I'm not showing his face and anything like that, but like just more of like talking and streaming and opening up packs for me. And I think it's just wonderful because I mean, he's not even the next generation of collector. He is the current like hustle and grind, and he's not just like a flipper either. He collects them and he loves them, and I'm just like, man, I am like 3 times your age, and I can't afford your collection.
It's unbelievable. I've been to a sneaker con before, and like you said, I mean the average age of the individuals that are there, it's extremely young, right? So the fact that these kids are out there hustling is fantastic.
Yeah, some of them, I think they might even put the kids who have the Zion cases with like slabs to shame, with these sneakers we're talking about. I mean, I don't know how much the ones that you just talked about sold for, but my nephew is like telling me, yeah, this is like a, I don't even know, Travis Scott or a Cactus Jack. I don't know. I don't know these.
Oh
The
yeah,
Grammys are the one award show that makes me feel the oldest. It's like Oscars I'm okay with, and the other award shows I'm okay with, but like when it comes to music, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm so old. So they're selling for like several $1,000s or even more, and I'm just like, they're so limited edition, and wow, it's
it's
just
amazing.
incredible. Yeah, so that's great. So you also said that you coach your daughter's basketball team. That's awesome. Like I coach my son's basketball, both my kids' basketball teams. They're 10 and 8, and it's just it. I mean, I imagine you feel that it's like super rewarding to do that, right?
It's amazing. I mean, I coached my son, for the longest time, and now that he's in high school, that's not happening any longer. But
Hmm.
yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's just such a fun experience, right? And it's the fact that I still get to do it for a couple more years with my daughter is fantastic.
I don't know. I'm sure this quote will resonate with you, but when you're parenting, it's the classic: the days are long and the years are short, right?
So true. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable how fast it goes, and no matter who you tell that to, right? If new father, new mother, it's hard to make it resonate, but it's amazing how quick it goes.
Yeah, it really does. So how did you enjoy your Father's Day before we get into the card and the show and all that?
Yeah, it was fantastic. I had a lot of downtime. I made a last minute decision to send my daughter to the Taylor Swift concert in Pittsburgh for the weekend. So based upon that travel, I was actually home alone for a decent amount of time on Father's Day. But I couldn't have asked for more. Went and took a golf lesson and came home, relaxed, watched some golf, and then hung out with the fam later on, which was great.
So that's where some of the money from the triple Logoman is going towards Taylor Swift, I guess.
Yeah, based upon the cost of the tickets, I would have to say yes.
So you said Pittsburgh. So are you guys in that area? I guess I don't even know what area of the country you're in.
So I'm in New York. I
Okay.
was born and raised in New York. It just so happened that I missed the opportunity to get the tickets for Taylor Swift at MetLife or MSG in New York.
Yeah.
So Pittsburgh was the next closest option, and then after that, T Swifty is on the move out west. So that ultimately wasn't going to happen.
That is so true. Well, I hope she had a great time, and did she go with like your wife or like a group of girlfriends or something like that?
Her, yep, her mom, her cousin, and my sister-in-law, which was
Man, that's a lot of tickets, man.
oh yeah, I did. Yeah, I didn't have to get all four, which was good.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's awesome. So you are in the New York area. I do have to ask because I'm a Queens boy, or I grew up in Queens, and I've talked about that in this pod. But which area of New York are you in? The city? If so, which borough, or out of the city?
Yeah, so I was born and raised in upstate New York, so in Albany, the
Okay.
capital, and right now I live in Westchester, so call it 30
Oh yeah.
minutes north of Manhattan, but I work in the city, so spend a lot of time in Manhattan.
Awesome. And that actually brings me to the next question, which was I remember on the show it said the Chiron in the bottom, the graphic said like, Jason, high tech sales. So my very clever podcast question was how high? How high was this tech and how high were the sales?
Yeah, I've been in technology sales basically since right out of college, which was 1998. So I'm giving away my age there for everybody here. That's okay. But yeah, always been in technology sales, mainly on the individual contributor side for a long time. And over the past 8 to 10 years, I've been on the sales management side. So I work for a cloud security and cloud compute company. I've been with the same company, Akamai Technologies, for about 16 years now. So fantastic company. It's been an amazing run, and don't have one bad word to say about it. That's for sure.
Aw Awesome. Well, I'm not too old to, you know, ask what cloud computing is, and I'm not that old where I'm, raising my fist and shaking at the clouds, but I remember watching the movie Creed. I don't know when it was, but I think it was pre-pandemic, and there was this one scene where Michael B. Jordan's like, doing something with his phone, getting the data or information, and he tells Rocky, "Oh, it's in the cloud," and Rocky's like, "What?" Like the classic thing. I don't know if you've seen that movie, but
Oh yeah.
yeah, cloud computing. That's awesome. So you are a collector. Clearly, you've. Can I ask you how long have you uh been in the hobby? Have you always been in the hobby? Did you return after hiatus? Like you and I are very similarly aged in terms of like the time you graduated. And I like to tell people, I'm a man, I'm 40. I only have like 3 more months of that because my wife is like, I cannot wait until you turn 41 so you stop saying that in the house.
There you go.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about like your collecting journey and like, if you took some breaks along the way.
Yeah, it's I think it started at a pretty young age. Definitely, I would say probably when I was about 10 years old. It definitely picked up when I was in my teens. I actually had a great opportunity to work for a gentleman when I was younger that ran it was actually a video store, right? So you'd go and you'd rent your videos like a Blockbuster, but on the
Oh,
side, he actually had a little bit of a collectible store as part of that particular store. So I had the opportunity to work there. He was a fantastic mentor, and he took me to all the local shows. My dad passed away when I was very young, when I was 8 years old. So
mm.
he became a father figure to me, and then brought me to a ton of shows, and that's really where it all started.
Wow, that's really awesome. So you had like a dad-like figure in your life. And it's been a while, but I'm sorry to hear that your dad passed. And um, you know, I imagine Father's Day has a special uh especially more meaning to you than perhaps.
For sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no doubt about it. I mean, I pretty much, growing up, always wanted to be a dad.
Uh-huh.
In particular, I was lucky enough to have a son first, right? And that was always something that I really cherished. And now that I have a son and a daughter. It's amazing. But you're right; it absolutely has that extra special meaning for sure.
I what you just said resonates with me because I think when I was a kid, I wanted to be a dad too. I was just like, I can't wait to be a dad, and a lot of it was like, I can't wait to not do what my parents do. But but no, I loved kid. Before I had kids, I loved kids. I coached youth soccer, even though I wasn't really good at soccer, or not that I'm even good at basketball, and I'm coaching my sons, but I think when there's such a need for coaches, because some parents they just don't want to stand, they don't want to step up. They just want to like say, okay, coach my kid, so I can yell at you and yell at the refs and just enjoy spectating. And it's like, no, like chip in, chip in.
That's so true.
So, oh man, but no, Blockbuster. That's another interesting thing. Given that, what was it? It's such a '90s thing, right? And it's like now it's gone. But what was that movie? It was a Marvel movie. Maybe it was called Captain Marvel. But like, she and I forget now. I'm forgetting the actress's name because we're just talking about it right now. But she just like lands on Earth and like it's in this blockbuster, and I'm just like,
Right.
classic, perfect '90s. I'm sure whoever's listening is just like yelling it as they're like running on a treadmill or something like that.
Oh yeah.
So my apologies on that. All right. So I think we did your brief bio, some justice. We're at the 15-minute mark. I think people who are tuning in who read the title where I'll say it's, actually I got to figure out, let's do this before I get into that. I usually have like a nickname or a way to describe my guest. Um, I had a hard. I mean, it's easy to be like, you know, owner of the triple Logoman or LeBron. Like, what do you think? What would you like for your nickname to be for this podcast title or
Oh
episode
man.
title?
That's a tough one on the spot. I can't even.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'm that creative to come up with something like that.
I
That's
should have
for
asked
sure.
you. I should have asked you beforehand. Like Logo Man. I don't know. Maybe near the end of the episode, we'll revisit it. But so
I,
let's turn
I can
to
say, sorry to
yeah.
cut you off.
No,
I
no,
can
no.
say
Go ahead.
the two other gentlemen that I was lucky enough to hit the card with. We came up with an instant chat group of Logo Bros. So
Logo,
that's
bro.
we started that for a while. So maybe Logo Bro out of the gate, even though I no longer own the card, right? So
You know what, though? You were the beneficiary of the sale of that card, 1/3. So it's perfect segue. Let's get into it. We are actually, because I did a little bit of research on this, we're actually coming up almost on the exact 1 year anniversary of the sale of the card. I think, at least the article that I found was June 25th. We're recording this on June 20th. Was that when the card was sold? Like like when was it pulled? Tell me, take me back to the moment the card was pulled and everything that happened after that.
yeah, it was, if I'm not mistaken, it was May 6th of 2022, which was a Friday evening,
Hmm.
that we pulled the card. And then quickly thereafter, I mean, it was a whirlwind how, fast we ultimately came to the decision to, sell it through Golden. And
Hmm.
I think you're right. I want to say, end of June was pretty close to when it all went down. I remember laying in bed, watching anxiously as those, final bids were coming in, and then extended bidding to see what it ultimately landed at.
Oh man, extended bidding is so awesome. I've definitely been in that situation. As a buyer, not as and well as a seller too, but nothing to your degree. That must have been so exciting. So we've teased it or we've mentioned it a little bit. So as the before we get to the actual poll by backyard and all that, I just wanted to, for some people who may be confused, you were presented on the show as a 1/3 owner. So my understanding is you bought into a break and I think you might have owned the Cavaliers and the Browns, like it was a mixer team, right?
That's correct. Yeah. So it was basketball and football mixer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I happened to pull the Browns, which equated to the Cavs.
Gotcha. And then so the other two owners, they had two other teams in the break, and you had no idea who they were, or were you previously friends with them?
He- Didn't know them at all. We became fast friends that evening, and from that point on.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. So the reason I ask is I don't think this happens very often, but I know some people have like fractional ownership in cards where they pool together money. So you didn't pool together money to get into this break. You just kind of were sitting in your home like everyone else was, and all individually bought, either one team or multiple teams. But I mean, do you remember how much that spot went for?
Yeah, I do. I think so. That evening, I was in for two teams. So I also had the Memphis Grizzlies at the time. But the Browns at the time, I think it was like $1,400.
Mm.
When I ultimately got that team.
Amazing. So the Grizzlies, I would imagine, were associated with the Tennessee Titans. Would that be right?
That
Something
is
like that?
correct.
Yeah.
And I was
All right.
pretty pumped then because, John Moran at the time, right? He
Yeah.
was something that, I've PC'd before. And, he still has some amazing cards coming out of Flawless. So it was a good scenario.
And that is all we will say about Mr. Morant for now.
That's right.
So when it comes to this break, this wasn't random team. This was pick your team. You chose to have the Browns and the Titans.
No,
Random.
completely random, which makes it even more interesting.
Ooh. Do you remember what the football product was? That wasn't a question that I had, but I'm just so curious because we're talking football teams here too.
You know
Like the
what?
flawless briefcase was one, of course. Like,
Correct. I don't recall,
mm,
although, the big chases at the time were certainly Trevor Lawrence, Mac
right,
Jones, kind of that whole QB
right,
rookie class, right?
right.
But I don't remember specifically what football product was in the break.
Gotcha. All right, all good, all good. So do you still keep in touch with the other two owners?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you guys have
We're,
like similar PC lanes and all that?
it's funny. I would say Cop is, a little bit, he's more my age. And he's a, big basketball guy. So we, from the legendary Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, like we had that in common. And then King Mitz, who is not significantly younger, but definitely younger than us, right? Has some different folks that he PCs.
Gotcha, gotcha. So one unassuming Friday evening in May of 2022, there you are in your home, the comfort in your home. You are you are buying into a break with backyard breaks on whatnot, correct? And um you are, I mean, just bring us to that evening if you could, please.
Yeah, and it's I had been breaking with Backyard for a little while, right? And most specifically with JMO, who's one of their more famous breakers or more popular, and had built a pretty good relationship with JMO and that team. And that evening, at the time, I don't know how many flawless cases were remaining, right? But the chase was pretty hot at the time, and I think cases were in the 40K range when they started off, 18K,
Right,
when they
right.
first released, right?
Yeah.
So the hunt was on. But, when I got into that break, I'm a big basketball fan. So, any cards coming out of Flawless at that time, I was pretty happy with. I mean, I didn't
Hmm.
ever think that, I was going to be part of pulling the LeBron triple Logoman by any stretch of the imagination. But that night when, the Browns came out and I knew I had a shot at it, it was very exciting because JMO, was hinting that, he had
Mm.
dreams about it. This was the time. And, as we went through the break and then he got to, the two in case cards, he did a very good job of selling it and certainly making us believe. And lo and behold, it happened. And I was in complete shock, as you can imagine.
Dreaming about cards, I would never do that. That has never happened
Never.
to me.
That's
Oh
right.
my gosh. I just had a guest on, my best card friend actually, and we were talking about nightstand cards. Like there's some cards that are just so amazing and pretty and like grail, basically like grail cards where you just want to like look at it. The last thing you look at before you go to sleep and the first thing you look at when you wake up. And it was a great conversation, but like this one is starting off so well too. So JMO, Backyard. Um, you said you had been so this is one of my questions I had maybe near the end that I wrote here, but so why, let's make the case a little bit for, and no pun intended with the word case, but let's make the case for buying into breaks, like for some, maybe some of our newer people who are newer to the hobby who may be listening to this. I don't expect us to define every term and all that, but like, there's um, why do you choose breakers over, ripping wax by yourself at home?
Yeah, it's funny, right? Because I do both. I
Yeah.
certainly go to my local shop and will buy wax and rip it on my own. I've kind of pulled back from that a little bit, and now I've been focused more on the PC. But for to go in and break with breakers, you have the opportunity to hit such massive cards at a lower price point. Now it all depends on, hey, what type of breaks you're trying to get into, right? If you're trying to get into a flawless break, then you can expect the price point to be a little bit higher.
Hmm.
But ultimately, you can get into some, lower cost breaks, and you have the opportunity to hit some massive cards, right? So
Hmm.
rather than going out and buying that full box or full case of wax, it can be a little bit more economical, right? I think the challenge is breaking is addicting. If anybody tells you that it's not, they're
Hmm.
blatantly lying to you. And some people,
Hmm.
maybe they have more control than I do, but
Hmm.
once you get into the game, it's very difficult to pull back from it. Again, in my opinion.
So would you say that's also the drawbacks of breaks, that they can be very addicting? I mean, you won the lotto. I mean, in many ways, and yet I don't know if like actual lotto winners continue to play the lotto, but like it's also really different, I guess, because it's lotto isn't like collectibles. Like, I mean, but you love cards, you want to keep buying in, you receive this large lump sum, and but and you've put it back into cards, right? I mean,
Absolutely. I mean, a majority of the money, went towards the kids' college funds, right? I
okay,
was smart about that, but there was
good, good.
definitely dollars that I allocated towards, my collection and ultimately what I wanted to continue to do.
Fiscal responsibility, super important.
That's
I
right.
say this when I'm not like a real breaker because I don't do it 9 to 5. I have my own like, like actual day job, and I'm not like, I'm having fun in the hobby. And breaking is kind of like this whole Hobby S. Thompson thing where I'm trying to do different things in the hobby and just learn and get to experience what it's like to be a breaker. So I guess my the thing that I want to say was like, I do in a way get the, like, I understand like how it goes with breaking and how hard it can be before the break, before the stream, during the stream, after the stream. And so but I also like worry. I mean, like I want everyone to hit and maximize their value, but I know not everyone's going to do that. I do genuinely feel bad when buyers get completely skunked, which I guess is a term that we can explain, which is like you get nothing.
Yeah.
Have you ever gotten skunked?
Plenty of times.
Okay.
Right. And I think, it goes back to your previous point of, I think you get comfortable or build relationships with certain breakers, right? And
Mhm.
when they identify that, you are investing or spending money, there are some breakers who do a really good job of
Mhm.
ultimately trying to at least soften the blow as it relates to being skunked, right?
Mhm.
Where, hey, maybe they'll throw you, a free box or, a card here and there, or
Mhm.
give you the opportunity to buy into another break at a discounted price. So I think some breakers do a very good job of that. Backyard was always, very good to me that way. Um,
Mhm.
and I think they do that to individuals, who ultimately invest in them too. But that said, I've
Mhm.
seen them give away plenty of items to, new time buyers as well.
All right. So before this becomes a complete sponsorship, we've now unofficially become sponsored by Backyard Breaks and whatnot. Um, I've actually talked about breakers or breaking or buying into breaks in a previous podcast episode, and I wanted to get your take on this because I don't want to presume that I know everything about the hobby because I really am still trying to learn. In poker parlance, or in the poker world, there is this word whale, and a whale is someone who in poker terms, it's actually like not good to be the whale. You're almost like the mark, or you're the patsy, and you're the one who's going to splash a lot of money but lose all that money. Like the sharks, or the sharps and sharks are looking to take the whale's money. Some people, I think, are okay with that term in the hobby, but some people are not. And I just kind of wanted to get a sense from you. Like, what do you think about the term whale?
I don't like it, quite frankly.
Hmm.
And I don't even consider myself a whale by any stretch of the imagination, right?
Okay.
Hey, I've worked very hard, and if you have the means to buy into breaks and you can do it, then so be it, right? There are
Hmm.
other individuals, plenty of names that are known out there. I won't name them because I don't
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
if they want to be
Right.
named, right?
Right. Right.
But plenty of people, certainly, through the LeBron triple logo man chase, that were significantly bigger whales, and
Hmm.
we're spending a tremendous amount of money, right? In
Yeah.
so I don't love the term. Let's put it that
Good.
way.
No, no, and I'm with you. I don't like the term either, but I know some people are okay with it. And I was like, well, let's talk about it some more. I think it's good for us to kind of talk about terms and what they mean and like really dive into it. Like, there's uh again, I didn't plan on talking about this, but there's this term like junk junk wax era 2.0, junk logo men, that Cage Lawyer, who's a podcaster and content creator, has talked about. And I mean, maybe we do talk a little bit about junk logo men and if that's a real thing. But I think it's important for us to kind of, not assume that we all are talking about the same thing, and that we all understand each other, because sometimes we can just talk past each other, not really get what people are saying. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, I don't like the term either. I think maybe then, because you and I have never been in the same break. I've never, been in a break where you're in the chat, I'm in the chat. So I imagine if you don't consider yourself a whale, you are pretty selective when you buy. Like you're like almost like you're watching which teams are left, and you're actually like paying attention, because I know some people who don't like, yeah, whales, they just buy anything in front of them, and it's okay because they can absorb it, or they maybe can't, and that's where the problems are. But would you say that when you're in a stream that you like pretty focused on what's available, what's selling, what's not, all that?
I would say it's been a learning process, right?
Mm,
It's, I used to buy into breaks where not even understanding, what was a quality product,
mm,
right? Versus what is now.
yeah,
So over time, I've definitely gotten more diligent about that. There were times when, hey, I would just jump into a break because of the adrenaline rush that you get from it, right?
yeah.
It's no different. Like you gave the poker example of, hey, being at a blackjack table, right? Doubling down or whatever you're going to do in that situation. And I also think, what I've seen it become is it's almost like the people who have really big egos
Hmm.
just want to show that they have a really big
Mm,
ego, and
hmm.
they will just outbid anybody and put as
Mm,
much money on the table so that people know, hey, I have money. And to me, listen, I'm not a whale. I'm in it, and I got into it because I like doing it, but I've
hmm.
seen a lot of that too.
That sounds crazy. People in the hobby trying to out ego each other or outdo each other and show that they're the biggest, alpha behavior, toxic masculinity in the hobby. That's impossible.
Shocking, right?
Yeah. I mean, women in the hobby can do that as well, but I mean,
Absolutely.
yeah. When I think about these ego matches, yeah, that's exactly what I'm kind of thinking about, is that just the person who just wants to show it or establish dominance over everyone else. And sounds like a very Pyrrhic victory to me, but that's just my opinion.
And
So
quite frankly,
yeah.
that's what led me to, look across the entire landscape and consider, other breakers as well. Right.
Mm,
And I established some really great relationships based upon that, just over time, getting into different breaks and, meeting certain people, trusting certain individuals. So
mhm.
it definitely has evolved.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, let's talk about that before we get to the show then. King of Collectibles on Netflix, neither being neither an official sponsor, but you recently, and I'm sorry I missed it only until the near the end when they did the hit recap, but is it okay if we talk about you doming the flawless? Is that, I
Sure.
know, yeah, okay. So recently, and I think it was maybe Father's Day or maybe sometime during the weekend. Was it Sunday?
I did treat myself on
You treat
Father's
all
Day.
right.
It was
Yes. Okay.
my selfish move.
So you had domed an entire case of 21-22 flawless basketball on Instagram Live, and let's just get into details. I mean, you broke with break. No, actually, you tell me because I don't want to get their name wrong. But what made you go with that breaker group, and tell us how the break went? I mean, I saw, but I want to hear how you felt like it all went, the experience.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, my really good friend, my buddy Greg Muller, got me into breaks, during COVID, and he had introduced me to Breaks of God, and ultimately, that was the first group that I started breaking with.
Mm.
Great guys, based in Canada, and that's where it all started for me, right? So on Father's Day, I ultimately did end up doming the case of this year's flawless with those guys.
Amazing, and I see your cat there. My puppy will not be making an appearance, but beautiful black and white cat for those who are on the audio only. What's
And
your cat's
and
name?
I am a dog guy versus a
Oh,
cat, but when you have kids, those things change, right? So not much you can do about that.
I know what you mean. Never grew up with a dog, and then pandemic puppy. I
Yeah,
totally get that. What's your cat's name?
that's Callie in the background there. But
Kelly.
my dog Ivy, if she were in this room, would be chasing the cat out of here. That's for
That's
sure.
hilarious. So my again, just to mention my best card friend, who I recorded with yesterday on Juneteenth, before today, in between today and Father's Day. His dog's name is Callie. So that's amazing.
There you
That's
go.
absolutely what a coincidence. So you had this case domed for you in the entire case on Instagram Live. Um, I how did you feel about it? The break.
Let's first of all, the breaks of God guys are amazing. I mean, they
Mhm,
they certainly tried to work out a good deal with me. It's a case that they had had for a little while,
mhm,
and a lot of the big Logoman cards had been hit, right? So
right,
they were great to me from that perspective. There's no way that I made my money back in that
mhm,
particular break, but that's okay.
mhm,
The Steph Curry gold USA auto at the end certainly helped us
mhm,
recover a little bit. And,
mhm,
certainly some great Hall of Fame autos, came out of the case, but no big, real true RPAs of any of the hot rookies or anything along those lines. But it's all risk reward. I know that. And I know that ultimately those guys have nothing to do with it. Right. It
right.
always cracks me up when this, concept of juice boxes come out and how certain breakers get certain products and, those type of things. But yeah, I can't complain about it, right? It's legalized gambling in the form of, like you said,
Mhm.
going in the casino. You know what you're getting into it if you budget accordingly, and the outcome is what it is.
Yeah, the legalized gambling aspect, it's again, I mentioned this in my episode yesterday, and I'm sorry to keep alluding to it, but it's so fresh in my mind that Fanatics, the CEO, not Michael Rubin, but the head of the card division, Fanatics Collectibles. I think his name is Mark or Mike Mahan, but his whole goal is to, or they said that what they want the pipeline to be is for sports fans to become sports card collectors, and then to become sports bettors. And I'm like, cards are already such a gamble, to want to convert people into actual, gambling on money lines and all that is just, for me, again, personally, I'm just not. I used to do a lot of poker. I never really got into sports gambling, but already cards are a gamble that I just don't see myself getting into, sports gambling. But yeah, it's legalized gambling, getting into breaks especially.
Yeah.
So you and this is not a official sponsor or talking about breaks of God, but my understanding of them, because they are in Canada and shipping can be kind of like tricky, apparently, from what I heard. I don't know if it's true, but they will actually cross the border to ship so that people can get their stuff in a timely manner and not have to deal with the delays when it comes to international shipping. And if that is the case, that's dedication. That's really impressive.
They certainly have gone above and beyond from a customer service perspective. There's no, hidden fees there. It's all built into, the price that you pay for the brake. And yeah, and their shipping's fantastic. I mean, I always get the cards, on time in amazing condition. So they're definitely doing it right. It's amazing to me that they don't have a larger following.
Mm,
I mean, they're not on Whatnot.
mm,
They do a lot of, IG live. So maybe they
right.
would get certainly more views if they went a different route. But yeah, they take care of their customers. That's for sure.
It's interesting. Yeah, I've not bought into them, with my own funds, but that's awesome. I mean, I'm glad that you were able to find breakers that you trust, because trust is so important. Transparency, trust, integrity, entertainment, value. Like, these are all things that make for a good breaker, right?
There's no doubt about it, right? It's almost like I probably have 3 or 4 now that I'm consistent with or have been.
Hmm.
And I almost feel a little bad sometimes, right? And I joke about that with certain breakers, like, hey, don't be upset that I'm over here buying, but I certainly try and spread the love. There's no doubt.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I love to hear it. So I am a break. I actually broke, and I pulled a Desmond Ritter one of one RPA from Select for someone
Nice.
who bought like a one pack, not even a box, not even a break. We were selling single packs out of a box, and they hit it out of like, one pack, and I was just like, oh my gosh,
Wow.
I was very happy for the individual, and then so.